Okay, thank you so much. I am calling the 6:15 public hearing to order. This is an ordinance amending the pension plan to allow a refund of contributions to the pension plan. Roll call, Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Councilor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Councilor Cortez.
Here.
Councilor Fay.
Here.
Councilor McGinnis.
Here.
Councilor Poland.
Here.
Councilor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Councilor Zanowitz.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. And we will begin with the presentation. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. Before you, for your consideration, is an amendment to the pension plan to allow a refund of contributions to the pension plan, specifically Section 30-24, which is our cost of living adjustment section. And the proposed change will permit the plan to reimburse the cost of living adjustment contributions made to the plan by an employee who was a COLA member, but who has or was subsequently promoted or transferred to a position without COLA eligibility during retirement. By way of background, specific unions do allow a cost of living adjustment to their pension of 1% after their third year of retirement. The eligible employee contributes 1% of their base pay throughout their career to receive that benefit. And there's currently no language in the ordinance that speaks to a COLA refund except in the case of termination of a non-vested participant. This ordinance change provides a language to reimburse an employee who is not terminated, but who paid cost of living adjustment contributions during that stage of their employment, but then moved to a position where they were not required to pay COLA contributions and are not eligible to receive a COLA during retirement. Specifically, we've promoted several of our directors used to be in union positions that had that COLA benefit, so they made that cost of living adjustment contribution throughout their time as a union employee, and there's no method for us to reimburse them that contribution now that they're not receiving a cost of living adjustment benefit in retirement as a director. So I will pause there, and through you, Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council had.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. I think we're going to go to public comment, and seeing that we're probably going to have a line, teasing. Mr. Davidoff, is there anybody that wrote in?
No comments received,
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
All right, so now we go to questions by the council. I just wanted to, I didn't know if Mr. Winograd had any, because this went through your committee, if there's anything.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. We did have an opportunity to have this discussion, and thank you for the explanation. It takes a couple times going through it to figure out why this is a good thing and obviously makes sense and fairness to the employee. So thank you very much for concisely describing the situation.
Thank you, Ms. Winograd. Any questions or comments? Ms. Fay.
Yeah, thank you. I would assume that this is common practice when these kind of changes occur in other municipalities to allow for the refund of the contribution. Thanks.
It is. Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Fay. And it's one of those things where, you know, we just never had a situation arise where someone moved from receiving a benefit that they had paid for to moving into another union where they don't have that benefit anymore. So, for example, at a really smaller level, if I contributed into the pension plan and left after 4 years and wasn't vested in the pension plan, there's language in the pension plan to reimburse me my contributions since I'm not going to be receiving that benefit. We just, yeah, it was more of a common sense provision. We just didn't have drafted into our ordinance originally. So it's not uncommon to see this type of language in any other pension plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other comments, questions? Okay, then we will close this public hearing, and our next public hearing will begin at 6:25. Okay. I am calling to order the 6:25 public hearing. This is an ordinance amending the pension plan to allow for multiple primary and contingent beneficiary designations. And we will begin with roll call. Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Counselor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Counselor Cortez.
Here.
Counselor Fay.
Present.
Counselor McGinnis. Counselor Poland.
Here.
Counselor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davidoff. We will begin with a presentation by Mr. Ledwith. Thank you.
Thank you again. For the record, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager, and before you for consideration is an amendment to the pension plan to allow for multiple primary and contingent beneficiary designations. This is related specifically to Section 30-22, which is our 10-year certain benefit. The proposed language will allow an employee selecting the 10-year certain payment option upon retirement to name both a primary beneficiary and contingent beneficiary. The current language only allows for a primary beneficiary to be named. And then under the current language, if a retiree dies before receiving 10 years or 120 pension payments, the remaining payments go to the primary beneficiary. If the primary beneficiary dies before receiving the balance of the 120 remaining payments, the commuted value of the remaining payments is paid in a lump sum to the primary beneficiary's estate. So under the proposed language, an employee may name a contingent beneficiary. In that case, if the retiree passes before 120 payments are made, then the primary beneficiary dies before the balance of the 120 payments is made. Any remaining payments will be paid to the contingent beneficiary in monthly installments. And essentially, we had, again, one of those. We don't have many of these 10-year certain benefits that we do, and in the current ordinance, a situation came up and realized we probably should have contingent beneficiary language drafted into the ordinance, and that's what this would allow us to do.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Are there any questions, Mr. Winograd? Do you want to? I don't know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, we did talk about this in committee. And I'll note this sounds like, but isn't a situation where you're designating somebody to get like the pension for their life. It is a fixed amount. So, you know, you have that issue if you had a spouse that would then get yours after you were gone, that could be more expensive. But in this case, it's simply a lump sum anyway, so.
Exactly. So through you, Madam Mayor, to Deputy Mayor, so when you elect this benefit, you're electing those 120 payments, those over 10 years. And it goes to the retiree if they pass, the primary, and now a contingent. And instead, under the current language, it would go to the estate of the primary beneficiary. So now it allows for the contingent beneficiary.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And there's no public, I can pretty guarantee that there's no public signed up. Mr. Davidoff, was there any emails received?
Nothing
Communications?
received, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, nothing further. We will close the public hearing, and we will start our next public hearing in 2 minutes. Okay. I'm calling to order the 6:30 public hearing. This public hearing is an application filed on behalf of Vessel R Real Estate Holdings LLC and Vessel Technologies, Inc., contractor purchaser of 29 Highland Street, for change of zone of approximately 2.3 acres of the site from an RI single-family zone to an RM1 multifamily residence district with special development district designation overlay for the redevelopment of the site into a new 112-unit multifamily residential development which will qualify as a set-aside development under General Statute Section 830G. Associated parking and site amenities are also proposed. Roll call, Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Counselor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Counselor Cortez.
Here.
Counselor Fay.
Present.
Counselor McGinnis.
Present.
Counselor Poland.
Here.
Counselor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Here.
The applicant has requested that the public hearing be continued to, I thought it was February 5th. It says February 25th. It is the 25th? Okay. Be continued to February 25th, 2025 at 6:30 PM. Therefore, no testimony will be received on this application this evening. All right. And if there is no objection, we will continue the public hearing. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the public hearing is continued to February 25th, 2025 at 6:30 PM. All right, and we will be back for a public comment at 7:25. Thank you. So that's all I could do. Okay, we are going to, thank you. We are going to call our 7:25 public comment portion of our meeting to order. And we have communications from Edward Pollock, 38 Westland Avenue, addressing the council on pedestrian and bicycle concerns in the town. And Mr. Pollock, as we spoke, you are representing a group, so you will get 5 minutes for personal comment, 5 minutes for group, a total of 10. So, and again, we receive your comments. It's not interactive. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, Town Councilors. For the record, my name is Ed Paulak. I'm the chair of the West Hartford Pedestrian and Bicycle Commission. I also served on the Vision Zero Task Force, and I'm currently a member of the Vision Zero Advisory Committee, so I've worn a lot of hats, but they all have to do with road safety. I've been the chair of the PBC for, this is my 4th year now. And what I'd like to share with you tonight is some priorities of the commissioners as well as public that I've heard expressed at our meetings, as well as some of the views of the commissioners on a number of things. So I'd like to start by telling you that long before I was a member of the commission, I was attending what at the time was the Bicycle Advisory Committee meeting, even before there was a Ped and Bike Commission. And so from that vantage point of more than 10 years, I've seen a lot of changes here in town. And over that time, I've seen a lot of progress from a point where back more than 10 years ago, there was very little contact between town staff and the commission. And it was to the disadvantage of both parties. Now, I speak with Greg Summer, the town engineer, on a monthly basis in order to provide updates to the councils, the commission and the public in attendance. We've had just a couple of months ago, town manager Rick Ledwith and Greg Summer for 2 hours answering questions from the public and the commission. Last month, we had 4 police officers, including Chief Riddick, who answered our questions for an hour and a half. Greg Summer comes to our meetings every 3 or 4 months to provide engineering updates. So there's a tremendous amount of more of a cooperative spirit between the town and the commission. And I just screen went blank. Whoops. So there's been progress. I'd like to acknowledge the town's complete streets policy, which just declared the aspiration that the roads belong to all users, not just motor vehicles, and all users should have safety and accessibility. And just last year, the town's consultant prepared this bicycle plan and facility selection guide for the first time, which tells us where the bike facilities should go in and how they should be built and what type of facilities. At the same time, things don't always go the way that the commission would like them to go. And I think you know what I'd like to share with you, that the commission unanimously was very disappointed with the decision on the redesign of West Hartford Center. Option A, which we supported all along, and we expressed that in many different venues, public venues and means. Option A would have included wider sidewalks, greater access for space for pedestrians, wider dining zones, a narrower street, so less asphalt, and it would have provided protected bike lanes so that there would have been bicycle accessibility. It truly is and was a human scaled design. Unfortunately, the design that was chosen is autocentric, and for the sake of just a handful of additional diagonal or angled parking spaces, we lost the opportunity to get bicycle lane accessibility into the center. The sidewalks are narrower, and the few additional spaces that were added aren't anywhere near enough to sustain the businesses in town. And moreover, if you go back to in time, in 2019, there was no angled parking on Farmington Avenue before the pandemic, and the center was vibrant at that time. So we felt it was just a really lost opportunity, and very honestly, it violated the spirit and the letter of the Complete Streets policy. And so, despite all of the input that we provided, we were disappointed with the product. And unfortunately, bicyclists don't have a safe means of accessing the center on Farmington Avenue. And I attended many of the public meetings that were held, and unfortunately, I felt that there was an adversarial relation or adversarial position between some of the business owners in the center and the bike community. And that's really unfortunate, because if you don't know, much research has shown that bicycles are good for business. Bicyclists are customers. Bicyclists go to restaurants, cafes, the retail establishments. It's just a different way of getting into the center. It's not bicyclists versus business. That should never be the way that this is viewed. We love the center. We just would like to get there, not on four wheels, but on two. And so, there's so many reasons that people choose to be on bicycles. We have just constant reminders of how climate change is making life so dangerous, throughout the world. And that's tied to the carbon emissions from fossil fuels. Those who chose to get on a bicycle instead of a car, every time incrementally, they contribute to keeping that carbon footprint a little bit smaller. And even though it's just one bicyclist, collectively that can make a difference. But to do that, you have to have safe facilities where you can feel that you're not going to get injured being on the bicycle. Bicycling is great for health and for community. And for some people, bicycling is a way of either doing business, such as food delivery, or getting to work. So, it's not the spandex group that you see out on Mountain Road. There's lots and lots of reasons to be on bikes, and it's all to the benefit of the community and the individual. So I'd like to go through a number of projects and initiatives that we fully support, the commission, and we'd like you to as well. You know that on the road, speed kills, and that we have a crisis of speeding on our neighborhood, local streets, our collectors, and our arterial roads. People are driving too fast, so we need traffic calming initiatives. One traffic calming initiative that's now in place, and it works really well, are these raised crosswalks. We have 3 in town right now. This is the one at Boulevard and Wardwell. And the town did traffic counts before and after the installation of this raised crosswalk. It's like a speed hump. I'm sure you've gone over it. They found that the average speed right in the vicinity of the raised crosswalk here on Boulevard decreased 26%. Even more importantly, the percentage of motorists that were really speeding, going more than 40 miles an hour, dropped about 90%. Only 2% of the motorists were going more than 40 miles an hour in the vicinity of the raised crosswalk. They work, they slow people down. And so we have 3 in town right now. I'm told by the town engineer that there are 4 more planned this year. It's our position that the town should be rolling these out across town. Be more aggressive. This is a traffic calming that works. It is a quick build initiative. It costs money. It does. I'm told by the town engineer, a typical installation is $10,000 to $15,000, more if it's a complex installation or if you have the beacons. But this is not should not break the bank, and this really, really works.
You are approaching the 10, so if you
Okay.
could, yeah, thank you.
I'll go very fast. Town lighting, street lights make roads safer at night for us. The engineering department will be upgrading within the Vision Zero focus areas. We'd like to see town-wide the mid-block crosswalks, the lighting studied and upgraded as necessary. We'd like to see bike lanes painted green strategically near intersections, 25 feet on either side of an intersection, not completely green as here in Hartford. And then within the intersection, what are called these cat tracks. So these identify clearly to motorists that this is a bicycle facility. Many other communities use these. We'd like to see these. And there is a budget request for $30,000 in the capital improvement budget this year. We'd like that approved, and we'd love to see you put even more than that for green paint. Pedestrians on sidewalks are a lot safer than if they're on the roads. And even though we have a great sidewalk network, there are gaps in town, such as here between Brookside Boulevard and the path that goes up to Bugby School. To get from Brookside to that path, you'd have to walk out on the road. And Cliffmore is without sidewalks. So there are gaps exist. We'd love to see them studied and see those gaps begin to close up. This is a real easy one. There are 2 state roads in town that have shoulder lanes that are wide enough, it seems, for bike lanes. The town just has to agree to paint them, sign them, and then maintain the paint over time. The state will be responsible for maintaining the road. The town is simply responsible for the easy part. So we can do this on New Britain Avenue, where a road diet went in last year. Newington Road as well has shoulder lanes. The engineering department is studying them. We'd like to see those turn into bike lanes. Finally,
Okay.
last item. Traditionally, bike lanes have only been installed in association with road repaving projects. So as a result, it's just a very slow incremental build out of the bike infrastructure. We'd love to see bike lanes painted on roads in good condition without having to wait for the repaving and reconstruction work to be done. Otherwise, it'll be decades before we really get an interconnected network.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pollack. Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Okay. And I think you gave the town clerk a copy of this slide exhibit? Okay, thank you, and we'll distribute it to us. Thank you very much. All right. So we are going to begin our town council meeting, and we will, okay, good point. The public comment section is adjourned, and we are now starting our town council meeting. This is January 28th, 7:30 town council meeting, called to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Counselor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Counselor Cortez.
Here.
Counselor Fay.
Present.
Counselor McGinnis.
Present.
Counselor Poland.
Here.
Counselor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I want to take a moment to address a concerning decision made by the new administration, the freezing of all federal grants. This move directly undermines the essential services and programs and communities across that America depends on. These grants will likely support critical initiatives ranging from public safety, education, infrastructure improvements, and economic development. By halting this funding, the administration is putting at risk not only the progress we've made in West Hartford, but also the well-being of our residents, particularly those who are the most vulnerable. Like many municipalities, West Hartford relies on federal support to ensure our community continues to thrive. In a time when many people are grappling with the effects of inflation, public health challenges, economic uncertainty, this freeze represents a step backward in our efforts to build a stronger, more resilient future for all of our residents. We are a nation of laws, and I urge the President to reconsider this harmful and what might be illegal action. Local communities must remain a priority in our national agenda. It is through continued collaboration of federal, state, and local governments that we can ensure a brighter, more prosperous future for every resident of our community. Finally, I want to acknowledge the concerns we've heard from many residents regarding this administration's recent hardline stance on immigration, specifically the President's decision to disregard long-held constitutional right, including birthright citizenship. It is really troubling, and I've heard firsthand from many people. Let me be clear, our top priority is the safety, dignity, and well-being of all individuals in our community, regardless of national origin or immigration status. We stand firmly in defense of universal human rights. Governing is not a game, nor a platform for implementing destabilizing and divisive policies. I call on all political leaders to demonstrate empathy and grace and to consider the very real human consequences of decisions that we all make. Thank you. We will begin with public forum. Is there anybody signed up to speak to something on this agenda that was not the subject of a public hearing? While Mr. Judge is coming up, I am going to read a proclamation. This is actually yesterday is the day, but there will be a commemoration on Sunday. This is the Holocaust Remembrance Day proclamation, whereas the Holocaust, also known as the Shoah, was a horrific genocide where approximately 6 million Jews and 5 million other people were systemically killed by the Nazi regime and its collaborators between 1939 and 1945. And whereas January 27, 1945, marks the liberation of the largest Nazi concentration death camp, Auschwitz-Birkenau, and was named Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27, 2025 marks 80 years since this date. Whereas International Holocaust Remembrance Day is a day to reflect on these inhumane, cruel actions and think about the lives and dreams that were lost and ripped away. Whereas we should remain forever vigilant against hatred, persecution, and the tyranny in a time of increased anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial by ensuring that students are educated about these crimes against humanity. Whereas the United States Congress has established the Days of Remembrance as the nation's annual commemoration of the Holocaust as the time set aside to honor all of its victims, survivors, and liberators, and as a reflection on the importance of dignity and respect for all persons. And whereas by definition, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities, and we should be increasingly alert to threats against minority communities. And whereas we echo the words of Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations, who warned, a genocide begins with the killing of one man, not for what he has done, but for who he is. And whereas in a time when we cannot take our democracy or the rule of law for granted, in a time of increased anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial, we should remain forever vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny. And whereas anti-Semitic attacks are an assault on the humanity of all people, and we should always take time to remember the millions of men, women, and children who were simply killed because of their beliefs and heritage, and we must avow that the atrocities and genocide of the Holocaust must never be repeated. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on behalf of the Town Council and the residents of West Hartford, I, Mayor Sherry G. Cantor, do hereby recognize January 27th, 2025, observed as International Holocaust Remembrance Day in West Hartford. Thank you. And now we go to the consent calendar. That's a very bad segue, but Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without objection, I move that items 5A, 7A, and 10A be placed on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the items are placed on consent. Mr. Winograd?
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We now go to 6, unfinished business. Mr. Winograd?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution accepting 2649 to 2679 Albany Avenue service driveway as a public street.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this particular resolution has been before our Community Planning and Economic Development Committee a couple of times now, and applies to the Albany Avenue service driveway located on the south side of Albany Avenue as you head west between Coolidge and Mountain Road. By way of history, back in the 70s, our Town Plan and Zoning Commission approved this 12-home subdivision and subsequent service driveway to reduce the number of closely spaced driveway connections to Albany Avenue. At that time, all the deeds conveying these properties contemplated that this driveway would be accepted by the town as a public street, but the town never took any action to accept it. 10 of the 12 properties along the service driveway are serviced by a municipal stormwater drainage system, and we would require easements to facilitate the maintenance of that particular system, which we have received. And adoption of this resolution would allow the town to maintain this service driveway as we would any other public street. But just by way of history, we have been plowing this service driveway and sweeping it, and we've been making patchwork to this driveway over the years, but going back to the 70s, it's time to be replaced. So this would allow us to move forward with that process as well. So through you, Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council had.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Ms. McGinnis, I don't know if you have any comments for this out of your committee. No? Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Ledwith? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6B, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt an ordinance amending the pension plan to allow a refund of contributions to the pension plan.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This resolution ordinance change was the subject of a public hearing earlier this evening and had also been before the Finance and Administration Committee previously. And this amendment will allow us, as we discussed in the public hearing, there are certain unions that have a cost of living adjustment benefit associated with their pension that kicks in after 3 years of being retired. In exchange for that benefit, a member pays 1% of their base salary over the course of their career. We did have a number of employees who were subject to that benefit and then were promoted out of that union and now are no longer eligible for a cost of living adjustment benefit. However, we did not have language in the pension ordinance that would allow us to refund those members' contributions that they made over the course of many years for a benefit that they would not receive. So this would allow us to eventually make those reimbursements to those affected employees.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Mr. Winograd, I don't know if you want to just summarize quickly, too.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this is something we've discussed in committee as well as at the public hearing, and appreciate the efforts. This is a fair thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Excuse
Motion
me, Madam
ca-
Mayor, it requires a roll call.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Okay, so go ahead. Mr. Davidoff?
Counselor Blanks,
Yes.
Mayor Cantor.
Yes.
Counselor Cortez,
Yes.
Counselor Fay,
Yes.
Counselor McGinnis,
Yes.
Counselor Poland,
Yes.
Counselor Walters,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Winograd,
Yes.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Letter C, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt an ordinance amending the pension plan to allow for multiple primary and contingent beneficiary designations.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, this was also the subject of a public hearing?
It was, Madam Mayor, and also discussed at a previous Finance and Administration Committee meeting as well. So this is a very minor amendment change to this particular ordinance as it relates to a certain benefit that's not widely used within our pension plan, and that's a 10-year certain benefit option where a retiree will elect to take their actuarially determined pension over a 10-year period. So they'd get 120 pension payments over that 10-year period. If our ordinance, our pension ordinance allowed for the retiree to determine who a primary beneficiary was, but if something were to happen to the retiree and the primary beneficiary, we did not have a contingent beneficiary clause within the ordinance. So this would add that contingent beneficiary clause to the ordinance, allowing, in the event that the retiree passes away and their primary beneficiary passes away, then there would be a contingent beneficiary. Right now, it would go to the primary beneficiary's estate. So, and it did happen to an individual, which is why we wanted to make this change.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Mr. Winograd?
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Mayor. As noted, it has been discussed in committee as well as in public hearing, and this has no cost to the pension plan. It's the same amount of money, just who gets it. So, as you said, it's a very minor change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll go to roll call vote. Mr. Davidoff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Counselor Blanks,
Yes.
Mayor Cantor,
Yes.
Counselor Cortez,
Yes.
Counselor Fay,
Yes.
Counselor McGinnis,
Yes.
Counselor Poland,
Yes.
Counselor Walters,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Winograd,
Yes.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Letter D, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without objection, I move to postpone consideration of an application filed on behalf of Vessel RE Holdings LLC and Vessel Technologies, Inc., contractor purchaser of 29 Highland Street for change of zone of approximately 2.3 acres of the site from an RI single-family zone to RM1 family multifamily residence district with special development district designation overlay for the redevelopment of the site into a new 112-unit multifamily residential development, which will qualify as a set-aside development under General Statute Section 830G. Associated parking and site amenities are also proposed. And I move to postpone that consideration until the Town Council meeting on February 25th, 2025.
Second.
You actually don't need to say. Is there any? That's okay. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the motion is adopted, and now we go to the town manager's report. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll begin the town manager's report with a summary of some upcoming council business. We do have a Finance and Administration Committee meeting on Monday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. That will be a virtual meeting, followed by a Public Safety Committee meeting on Wednesday morning, February 5th at 8 a.m., followed the following night by a Public Works, Facilities, and Sustainability Committee meeting Thursday evening, February 6th at 6 p.m. And then we do have our next council meeting would take place on February 11th, Tuesday, February 11th at 7:30 p.m. But we do have a public hearing preceding that meeting for an application for a change of zone and redevelopment of 1800 Asylum. And that public hearing will begin at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. Some updates on some different events that have been happening. On Friday, January 24th, the Town That Cares and West Hartford Public Schools were 2 of 9 organizations to be the beneficiary of a very generous gift from Elmwood Community Church, with the proceeds from the sale of the church totaling $920,000. The parishioners collectively decided how the money could best be used, and the Town That Cares Fund, which supports West Hartford families in need, received $100,000, and West Hartford Public Schools received $300,000 to fund scholarships for students interested in learning a trade. Westmore Park was the third West Hartford recipient to receive $20,000 to fund the park's Plant a Row for the Hungry and their Eco Adventure program. We are truly grateful to be included in this legacy gift. The Spring and Summer 2025 Leisure Services Program Guide will be posted on the Leisure Services webpage on Wednesday, January 29th at noon. The catalog contains hundreds of programs for all ages, from babies to senior citizens. Parents can begin planning their child's summer vacation. Copies of the catalog are also available at Town Hall, libraries, and recreation facilities. Registration for West Hartford residents opens on Wednesday, February 5th for summer programs, and March 5th for spring and April vacation camps. For non-residents, registration will begin on February 12th for summer programs and March 12th for spring and April vacation programs. Congratulations to Fire Chief Greg Priest, Deputy Director of Emergency Management Bob McHugh, and Emergency Management Specialist Michael Peruccio, who were notified yesterday, January 27th, that they successfully passed the testing and professional experience requirements to receive the Certified Emergency Manager credential. The CEM designation is the highest honor of professional achievement available from the International Association of Emergency Managers, which has in its membership more than 6,000 emergency managers whose goals are saving lives and protecting property and the environment during emergencies and disasters. So a big shout out to all three of those honorees. The new technology classes are being offered at the Noah Webster and Faxon Library starting this week. Join our friendly instructors for a series of workshops where you can learn new skills and get more comfortable using technology. The classes will guide people through the basics of using the internet, email, and virtual meetings. Laptops will be provided, or you can bring your own device. Classes are held at both locations on Wednesdays at 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. starting on January 29th, and Thursdays 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. beginning on January 30th. For more information and to register, call the Faxon or Noah Webster Library. And just to quickly follow up on the mayor's opening comments on a situation that we're obviously monitoring very closely. As the mayor had announced, the president had recently announced a review of all previously approved federal grants. This review could potentially place our Safe Street for All grant, which we recently received in the amount of $3.1 million at risk. As the council knows, this grant was critical to continuing to move our Vision Zero efforts forward with a red light camera enforcement program and other significant infrastructure changes town-wide. To address this, we have communicated with our state delegation as well as CCM the importance of this grant to West Hartford, and we'll also reach out to our federal delegation for their support as well. And they were critical in their advocacy for this grant when we applied for it upfront. So in addition to that, we do receive about $14 million in federal funding from the government, federal government, mostly through our school district for special education programs and things like that. So I don't believe that would be at risk here, but I know we were informed by the Federal Highway Administration that our second Safe Street for All grant is one of those grants that would be in the review process. So I will pause there. Through you, Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council had on any of those items or anything else happening townwide.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. I know Mr. Winograd had a comment or question, and then I'll open it up.
I just wanted to comment on the ceremony, the gift we received from the community church in Elmwood. To quote or paraphrase a reporter who was on the scene, it was one of the most meaningful events I've had the real honor to be at. Truly a legacy from coming out of a really sad event of a church, people losing their community. But they've really put forward gifts that will help maintain the memory. And so I just wanted to, again, appreciate the opportunity to be there and really just add once again my thanks to that community for all their generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Okay. Any other comments or questions for the town manager? No. I want to just reiterate our congratulations and thanks to the finalists for the award. It's really impressive. Okay. And thank you, of course, to the church. And it is actually a requirement by law that religious institutions do need to donate the proceeds and not, and so I think oftentimes people don't think about necessarily the community, the actual community that they're a part of, but more nonprofits that they are adjacent to maybe. But this is something that will really truly touch the community and improve us. So thank you so much for that. And truly a positive and lasting legacy. Okay. No other, so Corporation Counsel, Mr. Dodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I have no formal report this evening. However, we will require an executive session to discuss 2 pending lawsuits against the town of West Hartford and also a pending claim against the town of West Hartford and the Board of Education. I do not anticipate, Madam Mayor, that we will be taking any action when we return from that executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Are there any questions for Mr. Dodge? Okay, seeing none, we are now to announcements. I will go through these quickly. Actually, West Hartford United Methodist Church food drive. I'm just going to read quickly. During January, February, March, the West Hartford United Methodist Church, Mr. Cortez is a very consistent communicator of this usually, but we really, the need for food is big, as well as hygiene items, diapers, etc. I can't say this enough with prices, some food item prices that have gone up significantly, and also there might be some real impact to SNAP programs, which we might be feeling here as well. So we're eyes wide open. We're keeping track of that. Frank Droney, named Grand Marshal of the 2025 Greater Hartford St. Patrick's Day Parade. We are so proud that our West Hartford resident, Frank Droney, was given this honor. His selection as Grand Marshal celebrates not only his Irish heritage, but also his profound impact on the Greater Hartford community. He proudly served in the U.S. Army Infantry, earning Combat Infantry Badge during the Korean War before becoming a U.S. citizen. Following his military service, Frank joined the Hartford Fire Department, where he served with distinction for 33 years. He earned the prestigious Medal of Valor for rescuing an elderly couple from a burning home. Join us on March 15, 2025, as we celebrate Frank Droney at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We're really thrilled about this. Winter Madness Book Tournament. 32 books from 8 genres are battling it out for the sole title of champion of the West Hartford Library's Winter Madness Book Tournament. Your votes will help crown the winner. The competing books were all published in 2024. Vote for your favorites in each round. Fill in a bracket with your predictions, which resembles the NCAA basketball bracket. I don't know about that, but the first round ends on February 2nd. Vote in person at any West Hartford Library location or online. The Stories Behind the Stories on January 30th. This is the 9th year of the Connecticut Foundation for Open Government, CFOG, that will hold a panel discussion featuring top Connecticut journalists who will describe how they landed major news stories in the state in the past year. The Stories Behind the Stories event will be held at 5:30 p.m. January 30th at the Elmwood Community Center. A reception begins at 5 p.m. A $10 donation is requested. Black Business Expo will take place, this is the second annual Black Business Expo, from 1 to 4 at Town Hall Auditorium on February 1st. Rain date will, or snow date, I should say rain date. Snow date is February 15th. The expo showcases the achievements of Black-owned businesses in West Hartford. Come and show your support and learn about these thriving Black-owned businesses in our community. Free to attend. For more information, you can contact wasco70@gmail.com. And there will be free parking. Shakespeare Book Club meets on February 3rd. This is along with Capitol Classics Theater Company and the Artistic Association, Professor of Theater Jeffrey Sheehan, in discussions of Shakespeare's great works on theatrical literature. This will be actually on Zoom, and they will discuss Henry VI, Part 3 on February 3rd. You can read all Shakespeare plays online, and there is a link on the website. Screenagers Growing Up in the Digital Age will take place on February 11th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Sedgwick Middle School. This event features an insightful documentary that probes into the struggles and challenges families face with social media, video games, and academic pressures. Attendees will take away practical solutions and resources to thrive in today's digital world. Complimentary childcare and popcorn will be available, and this is sponsored by the West Hartford Prevention Partnership. Cozy Community Puzzling event will take place at Elmwood Community Center on February 13th, and they will invite puzzlers of all ages and abilities to enjoy 300, 500, and 1,000-piece puzzles, and for the biggest community challenge, a 2,000-piece puzzle. Can it be finished in 2 hours with the help of many hands? Bring your enthusiasm, your grit, your community-building spirit to share the joy of puzzling together. Snow date is Thursday, February 20th, 6:30 p.m. And if you have any questions, there's a link on the website for more information. And the last but not least announcement is the Irish and how they got that way. March 12th through 30th. What's so great about being Irish, find out by coming to Playhouse on Park to see the Irish and how they got that way. This moving, uplifting, and eye-opening musical is a history lesson of the Irish during the tumultuous 20th and 21st centuries through the eyes of Pulitzer Prize-winning author Frank McCourt. McCourt's razor-sharp wit, coupled with his trademark bitter irony and his boundless love for the Irish people, are all underscored by glorious music extending from Irish folk ballads through George Cohan's patriotic love songs. Tickets are available individually or as part of the 3-show subscription. And there is a link on our website, or you can visit Playhouse on Park. Are there any other announcements? Ms. McGinnis.
Yes, I'd just like to say Happy Lunar New Year to everyone that celebrates. That is tomorrow. There's over 1 billion people who celebrate the holiday, and according to the Washington Post, it marks the transition from a cold winter to a season of renewal, and this year is the year of the snake. So just wanted to say Happy Lunar New Year to everyone who celebrates.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Anything else? Okay. Then we are actually, Mr. Winograd, suspense item.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without objection, I move that we suspend the rules for the purpose of opening the agenda to add an executive session to discuss strategy and negotiations with respect to 3 pending litigation matters. Jacqueline Garcia, Administratrix of the estate of Mike Alexander Garcia, Jr. versus Town of West Hartford et al., docket number HSG CV 246189-274. Wozer v. Campbell et al., case number 324 CV 00851, and a pending claim against the Board of Education.
Is there any objection? There being no objection, the item is added to the agenda. Ms. Winograd.
Without objection, move that we enter into executive session to discuss strategy and negotiations with respect to 3 pending litigation matters. Jacqueline Garcia, Administratrix of the estate of Mike Alexander Garcia versus Town of West Hartford et al., Wozer v. Campbell et al., and a pending claim against the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Is there any objection? There being no objection, we will enter executive session. I invite the Corporation Counsel, Deputy Corporation Counsel, Attorney James Tallberg, and Town Manager, and the Assistant Police Chiefs to join us. Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor. And just
Yes,
to
Mr.
clarify,
George.
Madam Mayor, Attorney Tallberg and the two assistant chiefs will only be coming into executive session to discuss the two lawsuits that we're discussing. They will not be present for the pending claim against the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge.